Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today we're going to get on with part 3 of our wonderful mine build, getting this thing completed and installed in the city. Also, there's going to be a rather large surprise added to the scene, which I think you'll like. And I've been thinking since last time, I'm not sure I would ever be cut out for a job as a miner. It makes me feel so light-headed. Anyway, yeah, enough of that. Let's start with some amendments from you. Good. Well, amendments from you. Who will get a shiny bedoing? We will soon find out. They're all located around here, and I need my bedoing buzzer. The first one is basically a map of the underground at the openings to the outside. And I especially like this tile here because it's got two kind of openings at the bottom there. So maybe those are our two entrances into the underground complex. So I'm going to put that there so it's visible when we've got all the other big items in place. I think that'll be a nice little touch. Secondly was to add some laddering up to our lovely crane, and although I haven't done this part of the build on the mountain front, I wasn't actually thinking about that, so yeah, I don't know exactly where it's going to go yet, so I brought my huge bag of ladders for when I do, so that is a good kind of preemptive one in advance of me actually even doing that section. The third is for a security camera to monitor our security door, so it's just held up on a little pole at a nice angle with its antenna and so on, and that is going to monitor the security door, guarding the nuggets that are kept in the office, or maybe it's just the lunches or the wages, all equally important, I'm sure you'll agree. But yeah, that adds a little touch, and as long as it doesn't get knocked off by the wall of the Lego room, I can always move it in a stud if it does. Yeah, maybe that's a little bit better. Cool. And then the fourth one was just to change the sign on the top to be at a more jaunty angle. And they suggested I do it at 45 degrees, which would mean I'd have to sort of have it teeter-tottering around a central point to pivot it to any angle I wanted. But instead, I decided that I would use the power of Pythagoras to mount it at a 3-4-5 triangle type angle. And you may think this isn't big enough to do 3-4-5 with, but you can do it with half measures. So instead of 3-4-5, it'd be 1.5, 2, 2.5, which means I've got some jumper plates here so I can get 2 distance between the 2 connection points, 1.5 studs between the connection points, which means it'll be 2 on the bottom of that. And then look, it's at a lovely diagonal angle, absolutely perfect, just coming off at the corner at each side. It looks like it was made to be at that angle. And I agree, that is going away from all of everything else, which is at kind of 90 degrees to each other, and just adds a little bit of contrast with its angle as well. So I think all of those are excellent. Here is your bedoing. Well done. Right. So that is that. What else have I got for our build today? Well, I've got little brown slopes, my bag of those, to make it look a bit more earthen. And what we're going to do is fill in all of these gaps that I left from last time and start the real backdrop sort of behind the gold mine pieces, just to suggest that the mountain's going a lot higher. I've got 3 studs depth to play with, so I can't go with the biggest pieces, but I do have a lot of the kind of pointy one. I think these are lerps instead, and I've got them in new dark grey, old dark grey, old light grey, new light grey, brown, and I've got the smaller one in new dark grey and brown as well. So I should have enough pieces to play around with there. Then I'm going to try and maybe embed these other mining logos into the rock face, kind of as, I don't know, signs at the top. I'm going to see how that looks. I'm not sold on that one. And, well, just see how it goes. And then when I've capped it off, we can get on with our wonderful surprise and then installation. Yes. Let's make a start. Alright, well the ladder is on, and I chose a yellow one even though it's got the sort of second pair of clips at the bottom, which looks a bit odd, just so it stands out and you actually see it, because, yeah, I think it's another sort of bit of yellow that's in amongst all of the rocks, breaking it up. That looks pretty good. And even better looking, if you ask me, is this tread plate sticker. Yes, had to get one incorporated because I figured once you got to the top of the ladder, you kind of needed somewhere to stand that wasn't slippy, so you could kind of get into the crane when it was at this end of its motion. So I think that's really good. That came on one of these pieces in black, and I just moved it onto one of the 4x4 versions that kind of looks like that in grey, using my patented hot tea technique. Yes, yes, the tea long gone and drunk. So that looks really good. I've got the first of my sort of loud hailers to tell you about demolitions. And you'll see from the side, if you can just peer around, that it's all held up with different coloured bricks. We've got some purple arches and things in here just supporting it, because that's going to be right up against the wall, so it really doesn't matter. But yeah, I filled in that gap quite nicely. That's a real feature. I'm glad of that. So that was a great idea. And now I'm just finishing the gap in the middle there, using as many different parts as I've got in all these bags of pieces. Medium slopes, small slopes, tiny slopes. And this one's quite an interesting one. I think it came in one of those skateboarding sets, but it's just different angles and facets. So when you put it in, it all looks completely seamless. So I like that. So the main priority around here has just been to give my crane full motion. So it's got all of that, and it can go around pretty much every which way. He says, hitting it. Yeah, he'll have to be careful, this driver. He's a skillful individual, not to ground himself at certain angles. But yeah, I think it's got enough for it to be realistic. I've actually cannibalized one of the studs of it. It was an 8 wide sort of motion, but I needed that just to incorporate that tread plate, which I think was worthwhile lined up with the ladder as it is. So that is great. Happy with all of that. Got a bit more plant life and all the rest on this wall. Didn't incorporate a mining logo, I'm just realizing now, but maybe I'll go for one higher up over the conveyor or something like that, because that's where I'm going next. And I figure I'm going to have kind of a burp or lerp there. And grey looks a bit similar to the thing that's up against it. I think brown, it's too much brown in one section. So I think this old dark grey that we've got here as well, continuing on, or maybe just regular dark grey. Yeah, just to break it up, actually. I think I've tried all colours now. Yes, I think that's it. Be the next segment, and then we just need to bridge that into that, and then maybe get that mining logo in and continue. Yes, I think that is looking good. Right, I'll keep going. I'm getting quite experienced at doing great big rock faces and kind of tessellating all the parts together and making it look good fun. And one of my tips is to do all the big parts first, just so you get a bit of a framework as to what you're doing, and then you can kind of fill in all of the gaps and make it look more organic. So this is what I've done with lerps, because obviously that 3 available depth on one of these rock panels. Yeah, using too many of those side by side, and you start to see the repeating pattern a bit too much. So we'll just limit it to 2 in this section. But these are all sort of balanced up, just held up with the random bricks here and there, just so we can see the profile. But essentially just putting them all in a row going downhill was a bit too boring, so I thought another sort of peak over here would be good. And I've used absolutely every grey. None of the browns, I don't think that really worked, but you get the idea there. And against the light blue backdrop of the Lego room wall, I think that'll look really good. So yeah, it's all kind of buried in, and I've got the logos in the sort of same relative position to each of the crusher units that takes the big boulders and turns them into medium boulders, that turns them into small boulders for loading onto the trucks. And I think they, well, at the moment they look okay. I mean, it's another splash of yellow at least, so I think I may as well use them, and I'll bury them into the rock face as well, like they're painted on or just signs or something like that. So yeah, that is my plan for the next bit. I'm going to get filling in all of those gaps, and it should look rather good, I reckon. Alright, well that looks the same, but now they're joined up and supported with everything underneath them done, including what I quite like, this sort of pleasing overhang type area here. And then it just is next to fill in the gaps and kind of make it look a little bit less ordered, with the same piece being used in different ways. I mean, mounting them at different levels like that is one lower than that. And this are obviously on different levels as well, does jiggle it up a little bit, but we can disguise it even more. And I think the first thing I like to do is get these sort of longer pieces just to slot in some of the gaps to try to break up the regular shape. So maybe one in there, for example, though I do quite like the hole next to the conveyor, so maybe not in there, maybe in that one just to break up its shape. But we need a bit more colour to break that up, so maybe I'll put a slope on there first and then put one in. Yeah, that's good, because that both disguises that regular shape and adds another bit of colour contrast in there, so that's really good. Cool, so I will yeah, disguise this now. Shall I show you the reverse? You might be interested. Well, I'm sure not interesting to everyone, but maybe interesting to some. Yeah, it's a complete mess, but it doesn't really matter as long as it's strong. I mean, this is not going anywhere. And the fact that you can use some cheap parts in different colours works very well, and just whatever plates laying to hand, and inverted slopes to hold up bits that are sort of overhanging other bits, but not exactly, or panels where you're not going to see it much, but maybe there's sort of a glint of sunlight in between all of the bricks. Why not just use a bigger piece that isn't going to be that noticeable? So yeah, and then I'm using arches wherever it needs support, because they both give it some height and strength. Don't need holding up along their full length. And keeping long bricks, I try and use as few bricks like this as possible, because, well, they're useful and cost a lot more. So that is always in my mind, economy, while I'm doing all of this. But yeah, so that looks like a mess, but it looks good the other side. Ho ho ho, there we go. All my parts cleared away, and the rock face is done. I've got to that stage now where I'm probably quite glad that I'm done. I've done enough for a little slope sort of configurations in different ways. But if we bring it a bit closer, you can see all of the different pieces and angles used, and I think it looks pretty good from every angle. Very natural, hopefully. And I like the fact that I've sort of got it not all sloping down in one way, but got another sort of peak right towards the end. I think that adds to it. Obviously we've got the roadway here, so we can't really continue it on there, so it's a bit of a sudden kind of drop off there, but maybe they blasted that back in the day to gain access to this site. But yeah, that looks pretty good if you ask me. And then we'll have the crane kind of tilting that way like it's loading some boulders into the first of the two grinders. So I reckon what happens is they pick up a boulder like this one, the great big round things that are on the back of the train that have been chopped off the main surface on the inside by the miners, and then that gets cut into tiny bits, or rather crunched into tiny bits by each of the two crushers. And the first one could just turn it into kind of 2x2s, so they'll be coming out of this bit and going into this bit, and then out of there will come 1x1s, and maybe with some gold nuggets exposed, and that can go straight into the back of one of the trucks, because that's what I've got most of, which is why it mysteriously changes colour from dark grey to light grey as well. So that's the explanation for that. But also maybe when it's fragmented, you know, new facets of rock showing, maybe it's a little bit brighter. Who knows? Yes, that sounds good to me. I've got one more stickered piece. I just thought it could be a lid to a box, so I can kind of put that in the scenery when we get to it. I've also found these TNT pieces, which are in 1,000,001 Minecraft sets, but also the lid for this crate can be another TNT piece, which came in only 4 sets, including 75826 King Pig's Castle from 2016, which is an Angry Bird set. So yeah, I can have that sort of hanging around. That's the TNT they've checked out of the office, and that can just sort of be lying around near that rock, perhaps in a very unsafe way. So there is the mine build, and I think it looks rather fantastic. I mean, if you think all the way back to that set 4204, yeah, it's slightly bigger, slightly deeper, slightly more intricate, but I think you can still sort of see the essence of that original set in this one, especially with the links like the office and things like that. So yeah, I think it looks really, really good, and I'm hoping it looks amazing against the sky blue wall. I still haven't decided what I'm going to do as backdrops for the back of the tunnels. I think by the time I filled it with all sorts of other stuff, there won't be too much of it to see anyway. So we'll see how it looks on the blue, because I mean, this train's sort of filling up half of that one, and this one's going to have a great big surprise erupting from it. So yeah, that's what I shall tell you next. Good news, by the way, I got it wrong last time. It turns out that canaries that help detect gas for miners don't die when they pass out first. Essentially, they're resuscitated by an oxygen tank that's attached to their little cages. So they're brought back to life for torturing in a future occasion. Yeah, okay, so it's not perfect, but at least they aren't killed very quickly. Anyway, yeah, that cheery note. I've also got a load of these explosion signs. I'm probably just going to put them all around as well, all the different areas to show that we're doing blasting in this area. That's why there's so many sort of sirens all over the rock face as well, just to blare out that warning, because we'd have great big explosions coming out of each of these tunnels. And that is probably what has awoken the beast that has decided to come up from the layer below. Because in my city, one thing I really like to do is kind of link two different areas that might be, you know, really far apart together by a sort of running theme. And what I wanted to do with this sort of surface mine area and the entire strip of mine that's going to be right near the floor on the front fascia, the sort of front cross section of my Lego room, which is going to be loads of underground scenes and all that, that's going to have power miners in it, you see. So I wanted a link between power miners and the miners on the top. Now these are all kind of yellow, and power miners vehicles, if you don't know, are all sort of lime green usually. So I thought we could have the rock monsters being the mortal enemy of the power miners, linking the two scenes together. So that is what's going to be pouring out of the second hole, in my opinion. So basically, a while back, I was sent this wonderful piece, which is the headpiece of a rock monster, but the biggest of the rock monsters, no less than the Crystal King, the set 8962 from 2009. And I wasn't aware of that set, even though I knew about power miners and rock monsters. And I was like, what on earth is this thing? Now, this was way back in about Brick Hall 50 or something, and I kept it to one side for quite a while. And then I looked on eBay and decided that I would buy the Crystal King, because it was going for quite cheap, actually. It doesn't seem to be a very popular set. But then, having one head that I sent in and one that I'd bought, somebody else sent in another one. So it's almost like basically real encouragement to get these things used. And then somebody sent in another one. And they sent in another one. So basically now I've got 5 of these heads, and it got me thinking, well, I may not be able to use all 5 in one place, but I bet I could use 3 by making my single Crystal King, bum, 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 3-headed. Now look at that. Is he not awesome? And you think about like Greek mythology, for example, when they had Cerberus, Hades' dog, and he had 3 heads, didn't he? So why not have this beast erupting from the mine, having been disturbed by the blasting and not being very happy about it? So yeah, that is my plan. And we got sort of one head screaming into the air and kind of shaking his fist. Arr! And then we've got this one sort of looking hungrily at a miner, and then this one in the middle without the sort of head spikes on, just so it can all fit together, doing his sort of bulldog underbite type stare. And he's covered in little crystals. He's all neon trans green, and he comes with one of these sort of breastplates on the front here, but I was also sent in lots more of them. So I've made one for his sort of lower torso, and I've stuck some on the legs as well. I made him really quite bling, really. He's still got his sort of elbow sort of points on, and his ones on the back. I've just made it all a lot more pointy by adding 2 more there and stuff like that. And yeah, I think he looks rather fantastic. So this is the surprise. And I think if I sort of pose him either sort of on his knees, sort of getting up, or maybe he's just stood up having crawled out after some blasting, then, you know, he can be with a miner in one hand about to eat him, or maybe with a miner being chugged down by this head or something like that. And I thought that would be really funny. So not only would it be a bit of a surprise for Brick Nottingham surface dwellers, but also that really good link between it and the lower levels. So that is my plan. So what do you think of him? I mean, he's absolutely fantastic, isn't he, with 3 heads? I was semi-tempted to add 5, but then it just starts to get a bit silly, really. Not that this isn't silly already, but, you know, silliness is why we're here, right? So I think that looks absolutely fantastic. But, yeah, you do need to tell me what you think of that. And another thing that I'd value your opinion on in the comments section is how best to do this sort of thing with thumbnails, because I often get minor criticism in the comment section saying, you know, you've shown me everything in a thumbnail before, you know, I click on it. So if I do a thumbnail with this guy in, which I might have done, you'll know better than me, then it won't be much of a surprise. But then, yeah, I've got to attract views as well. So should I have it on the thumbnail, spoiling the surprise, or should I not have it on and keep that surprise intact? You know, it's a difference between attracting views and, you know, disappointing people preemptively. I don't know. The other alternative, of course, is to pixelate the whole thing. But then I always think that looks a bit clickbaity. And then people sort of get annoyed and go, oh, it was a rock monster. Or they just skip all the way to the end. I don't know. Anyway, I'd appreciate your view on how I should best handle surprises like this and my thumbnails in future. But this one, yes, you'll know whether I did it or not. I think looks absolutely amazing. So let's bring back our scene, get rid of these extra heads. Can always make a sort of wife type rock monster who lives underground. That'll really link the whole scene together, won't it? With the underground level. So I thought he could be like that, or maybe sort of, you know, on one knee, because he's quite sort of posable, sort of standing up, having just come out, something like that. But imagine you get him standing up. And he could be even sort of throwing this out of the way like it was a toy. We could sort of pose it at an angle like that. I mean, wow, that looks good, doesn't it? Wow, that looks like it's kind of erupted. Yeah, I like the look of that. The only criticism I have of myself, having just done this, is now we've got the second of the conveyors completely obstructed, and grey kind of blends into grey, doesn't it? So we'll have to see what we think of that, which is why it's only a suggestion. I could always have this guy just walking down the streets, or just keep him deeper in the mines on that underground level near the floor, because, yeah, he does kind of interrupt that scene. Anyway, right, let's get all of these elements into the Lego room. We can put this in its definite place, and then we can play around with whether we want to include the rock monster. Your opinion is wanted. Now, if you're digging this build and you want to see it placed in the city, and you think I deserve it, then why not consider blasting that subscribe button and joining the 37,800 subscribers to the channel on our way to that 100,000 mark. Whoop whoop! Hey, look at that. Well, I've brought it in safely. I haven't connected it to everything else yet, as you can see, but I just wanted to work out how it would look, and I think it's looking rather grand. Two things immediately leap into mind. One, that I can see the rock monster quite well, actually. I mean, he is grey still, but I can see the conveyor behind him because of the height that the table's at now, so I'm not too worried about that. And secondly, the colour at the back of the tunnels, the blue of the wall, well, you can barely see it, can you? Partially because they're obscured and partially because of all the shadows. So I think I was right not to worry about that too much at all. So yeah, I think this needs connecting, and it's going to be a really, really good scene. I put a rock in the crane just to emphasize that the big one's going to the top to get crunched up. And one minor disappointment is I haven't built it far enough away from the wall, in that I can't get full rotation on the crane itself. It doesn't really matter because it's not like I'm going to be moving it a lot, because we're going to be a minimum of this distance from it when all the rest of the tables are in place in the city. I could obviously move the crane arm onto the near side and then it'd be fine, but I kind of like the open access with the tread plate to the door, so I'm going to leave that as it is because that's the position the crane is going to be staying in. I've also moved the Goldmine Keep Out sign right to the top of the crest of this mountain, just so we can see it, because it's so cool. So I think that it would get lost down here amongst all this sort of melee that's going to be happening with this great big monster smashing into everything. I've got all my other parts for the scene, including, and this literally just came through my door in the middle of filming, new parts from Lego Bricks and Pieces that I've been waiting for quite a while, and started a video without them, but they've arrived in time for the end of the video, and it's just the 1x1 tiles in dark brown that are going to go on, well, the very end of this bit of railway, which you're probably never going to see again, but also a few of the other bits around here, and, well, wherever there's connections, yeah, around the bit that's covered by the train, yeah, so it's probably completely worthless, but anyway, I'll know it's there, and I like the fact that it is nice and complete. One little amendment for me is that I've put the helmet lamp on this guy as to yellow, because he's just come out of the tunnel where he would have had his lamp on, so that's a great idea. I'm going to give myself a bedoing in a minute. But yeah, I think this looks really good. I just need to get it all linked up. And one thing I kind of think is a shame that I haven't been able to include for UK mine is kind of a mine tower with a wheel on the top for the winding gear and all the rest of it, because in the UK usually mines are vertical, of course, and go down a vertical mine shaft. And I kind of thought I might want to incorporate that around just to give a bit of a flavour, but I've really got no space for it. So that is a bit of a shame. But, you know, without a mine shaft and it going all horizontally in, it wouldn't make much sense anyway. So maybe I'll do one of those sort of decaying and wrecked somewhere else, maybe as a sort of facade along this wall further down, much later on in the city's life. And talking of mine shafts, it does remind me of another dad joke, if you're interested. And that's what do you get when you drop a piano down a mine shaft? A flat minor. Yeah, I'm going to stop with the dad jokes. We can't make that a running thing. Cool, right, let's link all of this stuff up, and then we'll have the final scene. Well, that is a wonderful scene, and it's all mine. Very good indeed. Wow, this just looks absolutely amazing now. Everything's tied together. The base plates, the track, the monster, all the vehicles and the crane and the rocks and the signs. Absolutely looks great. Very packed and stacked. Just the way I like it. And, well, I didn't have room for loads and loads of stuff, actually. I was always going to put the kind of Mine Boss 4x4 on the roads of Brick Nottingham as kind of a link to the mine. But I think I'm going to have one of the transporters, which is nowhere near the full size of the other set in this line. That's very accurate to the huge real life trucks you get, but it is a much more reasonable one to try and fit on my road. So I'll do that. I'll have that one on my roads. And the really long truck here, well, I never had a chance of getting that in, I don't think. So I've put some big boulders in the back of that I had spare, and maybe they're being taken off somewhere else for refining and crunching up in a different way. Who knows? But yeah, plenty of ammo for the roads. But I do have the second one of those big transporters over here with the extra spillage being topped up with the little tipper there, or whatever you'd call it, shovel thing. And I've added two of the miners to the monster scene. We've got one being clutched very roughly in this right hand, and the left hand has just shoveled one into the open screaming gullet of the monster head number one. So yeah, it's quite a good scene. They're all sort of waving around, their arms flailing, and you can just see his legs coming out the back, because I mean technically when you get eaten by one of these things you just fall out the back of his head, but we'll ignore that minor point. But the crane, the sign on the top, absolutely love that. That came together in a few different stages, some of which suggestions from you. So yeah, very appreciative of all of the amendments that you've done to make this scene even better. And it'll go straight into fairground on sort of this side, and we'll have some more sort of facade scenes along this wall in between the rail line and the wall, and they'll be a bit more sort of industrial themed, I suppose. We can do sort of factory sides and things like that as opposed to skyscrapers. That's the plan. So yeah, can't really see the wall that much. Got all the little details of the plungers, dynamite, people, miners all over the place. That little train I just love. It's very cool indeed. The TNT, the signs, all the play features, conveyors. So yeah, we've got the big rock there, crunched into medium-sized rocks, crunched into small rocks and kind of gold nuggets, and that is all into the truck to be transported elsewhere. And I really like the dynamism of the big driller machine getting kicked out of the way. Partially because, well, it's really interesting, but also so we get to see the drilling machine, because if it had its nose into the rock face, well, we wouldn't see anything at all. Talking of not seeing anything at all, think of all that detail we put into that tunnel, and now can't really see any of it. Well, not to worry. But I think the thing that really kind of started us off when we started this, doing all the base plates, was the track from Trix Bricks, narrow gauge, seamlessly linking up with all of our regular track, and with that different colour of sleeper on the dark brown to the reddish brown, it looks really good contrast. And I love the way that we've separated different segments in between these tracks of tan colour with grey, and obviously where we started at the beginning in part one was making the little bits of colour leakage where those base plates overlapped the wrong area with the coal pile and the kind of acid slime pile that's mutating this poor chap here. That might be the best part of the whole thing as well. It's either that, the sign up here. No, it has to be the three-headed, massive Crystal King. He is absolutely wonderful. And it dawned on me that if I've got 2 spare heads, that basically I could just buy another regular set and make another 3-headed one, of course. So that might be, well, what I do. And then I can have one of these bad boys in the underground as well, right near the floor of the Lego room. But this is going to stand out very well. And although I was planning to put the big loop coaster pretty much there on that table, I think you'll be able to see from this angle straight past it, and the same from the angle kind of looking at over there, which is the most important angle because that's where visitors to the Lego room, the main sort of viewing angle, will be able to see it. So it'll look really good from there as well. So I think this has been an amazing project. It's really come together in 3 parts, and I'm very happy with it. It stands out a mile and makes up the not having it at all in the previous city. Yes, that is an itch that I've wanted to scratch for a long time, and I have scratched it well. But do tell me what you think. I do think this is my favourite part of doing Lego sometimes. When you've collected loads of constituent parts for ages, had an idea in the back of your mind, bought track and base plates and all sorts of other things to bring together into a great scene, and then finally you get it all done and you get to admire it, put your hands on your hips and go, yeah, that's about right. That's what I pictured. That's what I like anyway. So yeah, I'm still open to improvements if you've got any from this time as well. We can do those amendments at the beginning of the next video. But I think it looks pretty amazing. So as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome Lego videos. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. Do check out the links in the description below. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, we'll be doing a brick haul on Wednesday on the sister channel. And then we'll be back in the Lego room for another mock build, I think. I'm going to do another one of my big projects that I've been planning for a while. And then I can stand with my hands on my hips admiring that for a bit as well. So yeah, really look forward to doing all of these things that I've never managed to do in the original city. So until then, see you!
Miners be tasty.